Welcome to another watercolor lesson, and I am Vanidas Mangathil. Today we are going to learn making of this loose and imaginary watercolors. I will be explaining the entire process, so please watch till the end of the video. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do it right away. So let's get into the video. Right, now I am planning to make a boat here. So see, whenever we do something from the imagination, we have to have some kind of a beginning, something we need to start with. We cannot start, without any idea, absolutely blank. It will be very difficult. So how I do is that I start with a vague idea in my mind. So I'm starting in today's video. I'm starting this image with a boat and a couple of people sitting in that. Okay, it's a very small, tiny boat, maybe a countryside boat, and maybe a couple of people here. Okay, so one standing and a couple of people sitting there. And now I will start developing around the boat. Okay, what is happening around the boat, we will have to work out. I was thinking that today I will use a different color scheme. So rather than going for very much an earthy colors that I usually follow, today I might do something that is very greenish and vibrant colors, right? And I always prefer doing wet on wet. A lot of things doing wet on wet. So I'm washing the entire paper with good amount of water. Okay, when I say entire paper, I will be leaving the space for the boat and the figures untouched, but the rest of the area of the paper I am planning to wet. Right, a little careful around the boat so that the boat doesn't get wet, and also around the people standing. Right. So the paper that I am using is quarter sheet, which is 11 by 15 inch, and cold pressed watercolor paper. The brand I am using is an Indian brand called Chitrapat, but you can use any cold press paper which has a good wet on wet response. I am using cerulean blue for the sky. Since the paper is wet, it has a good amount of merging that is happening. Okay, so below that I am using some kind of green and maybe a little bit of raw sienna mixed with the green, maybe a little bit of orange. So the precise colors are, I keep on changing the colors, in the sense that which color should go next is an instant or impulsive decision in my case. So I will not be able to precisely describe what is the colors that I am using in what ratio, but I'll try to mention it as much as possible. Okay, so here I have used lemon yellow mixed with some vibrant green. Okay, on the right side, and the same lemon yellow and a little bit of blue and green mix. So it all depends upon what is there on the palette also. Initially we can take fresh colors, but the moment some colors are already on the palette and we switch the colors, what happens is that the color gets a little bit of dirty or not very pure on the palette. So I'll not be able to clearly describe what is the color, but it is a combination of lemon yellow, a little bit of raw sienna, orange, green and blue. That is what I have taken so far. So from the shade of the color you can make it out. Now the entire paper is almost done with initial wash. So I have made it upside down, and then I am applying a little bit of a darker color. So why I put it upside down is I wanted a lot of color variations to happen on the sky area, but not anything below water, below the boat. See, we have sky area and we have the water area. All these color variation shapes, one darker shapes on top of the lighter wash, all those things should ultimately suggest some foliages, and I want that to happen on the sky area. So in order to avoid bleeding it down, I am using it upside down, and I am doing a lot of splashing here. So splashing is by loading the brush with a lot of paint, reasonably thick paint, and tapping on my finger so that the splashes will fall on the paper. And if you are not careful enough, it falls on the unwanted area, so you should be a little careful. So I wanted to turn it upside down, and before that I have made it little bit dry. Okay, and I did some splashing of color. So I'm moving little faster, so some part of the maybe waiting period, color mixing period, etc. I have removed from the video to make video a little brief, but I haven't missed any important information. Again, spraying with water to get soft edges. So if you think if you're following it along, you can just pause the video and maybe rewind and then watch again. Okay, so that you can understand the actual process in a very controlled speed. If you are liking this video, please subscribe to my channel and press the bell notification icon so that you get notified for all my future videos. I am planning to make as much videos as possible with a variety of subjects. Okay, I think we are getting the pretty much the initial feel of the scene. It is a lot of foliages above and some reflections below, and now I am creating some kind of a movement in water by sort of suggesting some say ripples. Okay, this again is done wet on wet, so a lot of things are getting merged. Okay, at the far end I think I need some light and I need some sense of depth, so I am lifting out some of the colors, and the lifting out is done by pressing the brush little hard on the paper and dragging away some of the pigments. Okay, dragging away some of the pigment. You can see the dragging away of pigments lifts the colors out, and there some sense of light is getting created there. Okay, so some droplets were there. I am just lifting it out. Okay, some amount of light I'm trying to create, and that will also help in getting some depth. Okay, now we are finding some depth around the horizon and some amount of sunlight at the bottom area also, right? See that way the water will get little bit more interest, and on top of it now we need to add little bit more darker ripples also. Once the lighter areas are defined, I will add some darker areas in the water so that we get some kind of a dynamism or some kind of a movement in the water. The area is wet. I am thinking that I will try to suggest some reflection for the boat. So the color of the reflection is very dark that I have taken. Actually, if the color of the boat is light, I think we should go for lighter reflection. I am planning to paint the boat later with a darker color. Maybe I will make the boat red, so I will add some amount of red in the reflection. My judgment is going slightly in the wrong direction. It is spreading more than what I was expecting. I wasn't expecting this much of spread to happen. So I was suggesting some colors in the reflection, and because I am planning to paint some figures on top of the boat, inside the boat, Okay, so the reflection for those figures are now being defined, but it is spreading little bit too much. I think I should have waited for a couple of more seconds for those reflections to happen. Now some darker tones, and that is for the shadow area of the water, because the water will have a lot of movements and some ripples. It will have a light facing area and shadow area. So these are darker tones suggesting the ripples basically, and it is very difficult to precisely define the shape of the ripples. First of all, this is an imaginary work, so we cannot imagine all those ripples and how exactly the shapes will be. If you have a reference, you can probably copy. So just suggested some ripples and shadows. Once it is fully dry, once the paper is fully dry, I am going for coloring the boards. Okay. Now the paper is fully dry and I am coloring the board. I am using some Scarlet Lake color and some darker tones for the board. Okay. Some darker tones for the board. I think the boat shape is coming out, and I am making some darker touches so that it is little bit strongly connected to the water. Okay. So usually the bottom edge of the boat where it is touching the water is usually dark. Okay. Now suggesting some ripples, darker accents for suggesting the ripples, water movements, and it is actually it is a little it is difficult to actually describe why I am making these darker marks in the way I am making it. It is kind of a gut feeling that I am following, and you have to observe. You have to observe how these darker accents are happening on a disturbed or a moving water, and it's a pattern basically. Okay, it's a pattern. It is not. I'm not strictly following to any kind of a rule or so. If you observe the water and reflection for a couple of times, you will have some kind of a sense of how the patterns are usually seen, how those the shapes of those darker accents are usually present in reality. So if you observe it for some time, you will get some sense. Okay, so it is, I am just depending on those senses that or impulses that I am getting from inside, and I am just following it. So whether it works or it doesn't work, how far it works, it all something we will have to wait and see. Okay, but I would suggest you just listen to your inner, gut feeling, and then you just try it out, and then later validate whether you need to make any further changes or is it really convincing. So I would suggest that you don't immediately take any decision for any corrections, etc. Usually what happens is, whenever we do these kind of things, at the time of doing, we may feel that no, it is not making sense, it is not convincing enough, but rather than immediately discarding it and getting disappointed, I would say stop the process for a couple of minutes, wait, and rewatch or take a second look after a couple of minutes, and most likely you will be much more in a composed way, and you will get convinced whether it is working or not. Okay, so I am stopping those ripples at this point because I don't want to overdo it. Sorry for some disturbing noises outside and some crackers, because it is a festival season at the time of this recording in my locality. And this is a standing figure, and I'm picking the red color for some of these contrast, because we all know that the red and green are complementary colors. And he is kind of he has a pole, maybe some kind of rowing, and okay, the boat and some kind of reflection. As I told earlier, I am not happy with the reflection of the boat, but I am going to ignore it now, because there is no way I can convincingly correct it and without spoiling it. So I am just ignoring whatever are the issues on the reflection and continuing. Okay, once you define more contrasting elements, all those little bit of mistakes that might have happened, those things will become less and less obvious, because we have more and more interesting and contrasting elements coming out. So it's okay if some mistakes are happening, and you can still continue. We are all humans, we are likely to make mistakes, and we can still continue, right? Okay, little bit of extra touch of red to get some additional contrast and interest. I don't know, I'm doing it right now, because I have decided to add another foreign boat. I'm still not very convinced whether I should do it or not, but I decided to go for that. Okay, right, now I think it's okay. I wouldn't say it is a great decision, but it is okay. See, the top end looks a little blank to me, so I have decided to try out a lot of darker foliages, and these foliages are my idea is that to create a little bit more what you call it as a little bit more of a contrast and little bit more of a depth. What happens is that the moment you make dark foliages, what happens is that the initial faraway foliages gets pushed further away from us, creating an extra sense of depth. And I don't want to create the foliages and fully cover whatever was defined earlier, so I wanted to keep some gap in between, so that the foreign foliages are also seen through. When you make foliages, don't make the entire leaves, individual leaves. Try to suggest some leaves and lot of volumes. Okay. You can see that the far away things are getting pushed farther away, and yeah, keep making it, but I would suggest have a check always. Don't overdo it. It is very easy to overdo these foliages, and whenever you are in doubt, soften it. So I missed softening it. I have sprayed little bit of water on the top left corner where I am working now, so that all those the shapes that I am making here will get little bit of a softer feeling, so that the foliages are a mix of soft and sharp edges. It's always a good idea in watercolors to have a good combination of soft and hard edges. So here in the foliages, the outer portions are hard edges, and the inner portions of the foliages are the soft, handled in a softer way. I think we are done. We are good enough with the foliages, and I don't want to do too much. I have just splashed some water to create some extra sense of interest. It's another attempt I am making to create a little bit of contrast at the far end of the water by adding slightly darker far end foliages. This again, I am not very sure if I should be doing this or not, but I have decided. And it's better to soften this. Okay, I always prefer to keep a lot of soft edges. That creates some mystery, and it creates a lot of atmosphere, and it creates a lot of mystery also. I think we are pretty much done. I think I'll suggest some small piece of land there, and suggest maybe one or two people. Okay, I thought that area seems to be a little bit of blank, so it's a kind of a compositional choice. I mean, whether some droplets of color I have lifted off, and maybe one more very small figure. These figures are very small because the nearby figures on the board or in the board, they are small, and these figures are to be further small, okay, as they are far away. Some darker touches, I think. I am afraid that I am overdoing now, so maybe I'll have to control on myself and stop it. Okay, little bit of suggestions. Right, I hope you are liking this kind of a tutorial. So if you have any suggestions or comments, please put them into the comment box below. I'll be happy to go through your comments and take any necessary corrective actions. Okay, if you suggest any topic for inclusion in the tutorials, please try to suggest. Some of the topics I may not be able to cover, but whatever I can, I will try to put a tutorial for that. I am putting some kind of contrasting touches with the pure red, pure orange and pure white pigments. This is just to create some additional areas of interest. Okay, so hope that's it. We can call it as done, and if you have any suggestions, please do let me know. I think it is ready to get finished. We'll see you soon in another watercolor tutorial video, and thanks for watching. See you again.